lovedreamingbeach.com. How are you? It is a chilly, rainy Wednesday. Happy hump day. It's Wednesday, May 14th. It's 9:30 a.m. I feel like doing nothing at all today. No work. At least that's how I feel right now. It's early. Let me see if I should turn this on. I believe Karen Reed trial day 15 will be starting today. I had a couple of notes as I was listening to my last video, things that I didn't say that I wanted to add. So I thought I would just make this quick clip and then I'll add that to whatever video I make next. So one thing, I've seen various comments about this idea that the jurors are going home, listening to YouTube, watching the news, reading articles, listening to all the pro Karen Reed people. Like somebody wrote a comment, I'm sorry, I don't remember who it was, if it was Jimbo or somebody, saying like, you just don't believe that they're not going home and listening to, and then you listed off like several people who I've never listened to. And like the idea that the jurors are going to be tainted by the outside world. And I mentioned that in my last video, and I was talking about like basically from the perspective of why would they want to do that? They've been sitting in trial for 7 hours. They're literally not getting paid for this, more than like pennies basically. And they have other things to do. They have other people in their lives. They have other responsibilities, et cetera, et cetera. But what I didn't mention, which is kind of like the most important thing, is that, and I'm going to read my notes. Besides the fact that the jurors likely wouldn't have the desire or the energy to go home and start watching YouTube videos, articles, news reports about the trial, but there's also the fact that by law, they are specifically and strictly told not to look things up. So it's not only is it unlikely that they would want to because of likely overkill and burnout, but they are legally not allowed to do that. They are specifically and strictly told, do not read articles, be careful with your social media. If you're exposed to something, try to walk away. Like they are on high alert, and they're supposed to tell if they're exposed to something, if they hear about it or whatever. And if they are, they could get kicked off the case. But not only that, they could face legal consequences for disobeying court orders and obstructing justice. Because if you are a juror, you are not supposed to be looking up things about the case. And you're specifically asked at the beginning of every day, did you look at anything? Were you able to avoid? Did you do any investigation on your own? And at the end of trial every day, the jurors are reminded, again, don't do any independent research. Don't watch things about this. Don't read about it. And, do your best to avoid it. If you go into a bar and they're playing something about it, then, do you have to leave? I mean, maybe if there's no way to avoid it, you might have to say, I got to sit this one out, because it's a serious process and it does matter. And you could get kicked off and that could disrupt the whole thing. Of course, they have alternates for that very reason, not just that reason, for any reason that a juror might need to leave. Okay. So obviously, if somebody is on the jury on purpose to throw it one way, not guilty or guilty, then they don't care about the law and they don't care about doing the right thing because they already went there with an agenda which is against the law in the first place. But although many people are trying to claim that the jury is biased or they will be tainted or that they are doing the research, they're going to be influenced by YouTubers, then either the people who think that they don't know what the law is and or you're making wild assumptions about people breaking the law. And yet again, why does Karen Reed think that she is so special that half of a town would lie to put her away? Why is she so hated? Is there a reason why this many people are saying things that would make you think that she might have hit a man and killed him with her SUV and then done many things to try to cover it up and then point blame at others? Because again, like I said in the last video, did you know that it's illegal to blame someone else for a crime that you committed? That is a crime itself. So wait, there was another note that I wanted to say. Okay, I have some notes I think that I was, when I was listening to Brian Higgins read his texts with Karen Reed, I wrote, let's see if I could read my notes. He said he had written, when he was reading out his text that says you're kind of getting defensive, and he said, you're kind of getting defensive, which I thought was funny. Defensive, it's like defensive and sensitive. You're defensive. Let's see, I wrote, Alan Jackson was showing video clips of Brian Higgins back at the Canton Police Department, which is where he said he went when he left the Alberts house. And you could see him there in the parking lot, and you could see him there inside the hallway coming out of his office or something. And you couldn't see him moving cars around that much, but again, the outside camera was focused on one little area. And as I was saying, assuming that we know what's happening off camera is a wild assumption and speculation. And this is what I thought. Well, weren't people saying that Brian Higgins was the one who killed him? So Brian Higgins was supposedly in the house, in the basement. People have decided that it's the basement because they got some of their basement floor repaired or updated or whatever. Because, there's no such thing as basements ever needing repair. And, it's not like a basement might flood or get water damage or God knows what might happen. All kinds of things. You never know. You're trying to sell your house and you want to increase the value and the sale price, so maybe you do a little do it yourself kind of thing so you can increase the value. Who knows why somebody might fix their basement floor? It's got to mean that somebody was murdered there. So that's not a quantum leap of wild assumptions. Yes, it is. So, but what I'm saying is that if Brian Higgins was supposed to be in the basement killing John and then helping to get his body onto the lawn, and then there would have to be some kind of cleanup of all this disruption and stuff. I think that the fact that he was at the police department, isn't that actually evidence that he wasn't murdering a man and cleaning up after it? I think so, but other people think that because he got a bag and he moved his bag from one thing to another, that must mean that it must have been something in that bag. Couldn't have possibly been maybe his dirty gym clothes that he wanted to take home and wash, or God knows what else you might have in a duffel bag. Okay, this was fucking hilarious to me, that Brian Higgins made the word hot rhyme with the word smart. You hot? You're hot and you're smart. I think that's so fucking cute and funny. You're hot and you're smart. Also, they only had 9 days. 9 days of texting. So again, people who think that Brian Higgins was over the top, insanely jealous, so much so that he would kill John O'Keefe to get with Karen, who got his number without his consent, without it making sense to him. He literally thought that she was pulling his leg, or maybe trying to weaponize him against her boyfriend because she was mad because she thought she saw him all over a girl. So even in the text messages between them, you could clearly see, if you're a discerning person with critical thinking skills, that she actually had no evidence that he had cheated on her. She claims she saw him all over a girl. But then when she was asked, did they, have sexual relations? He said, bang. She refused to answer other than to say it doesn't matter. And he says it does matter. But when she pushed back, he was like, okay, I won't ask again. And I think that he was showing positive signs of like, it does matter. I do want to know. It sounds like you got a lot of feelings swirling around inside of you. Like, he literally asked her, are you genuinely interested? Are you like mad at John? Are you, I don't remember exactly what he said, but like verbatim right now, but he was definitely not trying to jump in the sack with her. He literally turned her down multiple times. He was literally pushing back like that would have been trouble. Don't you have a boyfriend? Does he know that so is he okay with you seeing other people? And she's like, probably not. And he's like, I don't want any drama, dude. Seriously. You legit planted one on me. Then a couple of things that Karen had said in those texts. Life is hard, but losing people is harder. She also had said, growing old is a privilege. One wrong doesn't excuse the others. Oh, I also see a lot of people repeatedly talking about how the cops were drinking and driving, which is bad and it's illegal. But what bothers me when I see comments that say, well, they were doing it, so therefore it's okay that she was doing it, or they were doing it, they didn't mind that she was doing it, like somehow using the fact that they did a wrong thing to mean that it means less that Karen did a wrong thing. Anybody who was drinking and driving should have to, face whatever consequences, because that is a deadly, illegal behavior. So, 9 days of texting. And again, this was after the Aruba New Year's trip. And so I think that what happened was that, like what he said on the stand, he was driving and he saw her out there with a weed whacker, which I still find bizarre. Like, I can't imagine Karen Reed weed whacking. But again, I don't know shit about her. I don't know what her personality is like. So she's out there weed whacking. And then he tries to say hello to her. And she gives him the finger. And she's like, get the fuck away from me. My husband's a Boston cop. And then, it's him. And so from some short time from then to January 12th of 2022, she gets like, bing. Oh, I'm gonna fuck that motherfucker. That's right, Brian Higgins. He's just my type. And he just happens to be a Boston cop who's in the friend group of my fucking boyfriend, who I am angry because I think you were cheating, which I don't think she really did. I think she was looking for excuses to get out, but blame him. I don't know. And I think that from that moment when she saw him, she was like, I got to get his number. How can I get his number? And Melissa and Lito were a couple that I guess they mutually knew. So she got his number and starts texting him, and he's like, are you pulling my leg? But then people actually believe that. So from January 12th to January 29th, 9 days within that short time frame, they actually exchanged texts, and people, and he was clearly pushing back the whole time questioning her reasons and her motives. And people actually believe that he would murder John for that. For a woman that says, I never sleep next to anyone, I find that archaic, and he says, weird, you'd rather sleep alone. Like, he constantly was saying that she seemed sensitive, and like, they didn't even seem compatible. It didn't even seem like he was like digging her. It was like, you're hot. I thought you were hot from jump, but I thought you were in this happy relationship, and I don't understand why you're suddenly texting me and you still got a man, and like, are you moving to Canton? Are you still with him? Are you breaking up? Like, what the fuck? What the fuck, girl? Why are you texting me? This is weird and awkward. Yeah, you're hot, but even the day when she went to his house, reading those text messages, she's literally like, I'm begging you, should I just go to West Rocks driving around yelling your name? Because he refused to give her the address. And even then, she's like literally on the highway trying to get there, and he still wouldn't give her the address. And then he's like giving her the name of the town, and when she's like, it's not coming up, he's like, yeah. It's like he knew. It's like, it seemed to me like he didn't want to just outright say, like, just go home, girl. Even then on the highway, he's like, you serious? You sure you want to come over? And then he said on the stand there that when she did come over, it was basically more of that texting, but in person, like this back and forth. He's like, I wouldn't say an interrogation, but he was trying to suss out like what it was. And that's when she mentioned the thing about the Aruba, the trip and the girls, and he said it felt very weird. And they didn't kiss or hug or do anything beyond the one time that she legit planted one on him. And then Lolly had asked him, how soon after that kiss did you leave? And he said, almost immediately. But y'all think that he murdered John? My God. 10:33 a.m. on Wednesday the 14th, squeaky floor. 3 a.m. on Wednesday the 14th, squeaky floor. And the kids are testifying. John's niece and nephew. I'm going to open my curtain over here. And the chat continues to be heavily flooded by Karen Reed sycophants who literally believe 60 plus people are lying to frame one woman. Not only do they believe that all these people are lying, they believe that the children have no right to testify. The children have nothing relevant to say. How dare they make the children testify? I'm like, I bet you $80 fucking billion that the children cannot wait to testify, that they are desperate to get on the stand and to say their truth, their knowledge, their experience with this evil woman who resented their existence and was jealous and petty and did not love them. And she's literally been revealed in her own words. Not just, like, some people don't want children, and that is fine. Just because you don't want children doesn't make you a kid hater, right? But she was like outright resentful that he was raising them. And he even said, she even said in a text message to Brian Higgins, his heart's not in it. Like, how dare she? How dare she put John in such a negative light? Of course his heart was in it. That's why he was doing it. Does that mean it wasn't hard? Does that mean that it wasn't frustrating? Does that mean that there weren't struggles? No. I am raising my two kids by myself, and my God, it is so frustrating. It's so hard. It's so challenging. And of course there's moments where I'm just like, argh! But for her to frame it as if his heart isn't in it is so sickening. And then you add to the fact that she's saying that to a booty call, like a guy that she's trying to fuck. So she's disparaging John. She's putting John down. She's lying and saying that John cheated on her to try to justify the fact that she's trying to cheat on John. And yet there's people in the chat saying that the kids are lying too. what? So the kids are covering up for the murder of their uncle? Are you fucking kidding me? The kids don't want the true murderer. The kids believe that Karen did it because of a lie Jen McCabe told her. Like, if they had kind feelings about her, and they loved her, and they were like, no, we've known her for 2 years. She's been in our lives for 2 years. She would never do that. If they were there to defend her, I would say, oh, wow, you know, the kids are defending her. That would mean something. We don't know what they're saying because it's private. And again, people, stupid fucking morons in the chat are like, oh my God, I'm like, why are they testifying? Oh my God, we can't hear it. Oh my God, we can't see it. Oh my God, we can't at least hear it. It's like, they're minors. It's protected. Like, what is wrong with you? People either complaining that they're testifying at all, or they're complaining that they can't see it, or they're complaining that they can't hear it. And then the other ones are complaining, like, when is this over? When is this going to be done? It's like, why are these people watching this trial? I'm just so confused. That's why I'm becoming more and more convinced that these heavy pro-Karen chats are not indicative of a general jury pool, but are actually Karen fanatics who are flooding the chat with their ignorant, delusional fantasies, defense lies that they believe in. And actually, to be honest, if you really look at the things that the pro-Karen people are saying, what you will realize is, like some guy was like, oh, Cat loved Dreaming Peach. You probably haven't watched this, so you don't know what you're talking about. Like, what, bitch? I have been watching from fucking day one, and I have been making videos about it, researching, deep dives, and I don't know what the fuck you're talking about, okay? But when you really start to unravel what the defense has said, and then you compare that to all the bullshit, crazy, wacko stories, sidebar, unraveling, like incredibly elaborate, complex, detailed plot lines, the chat is like making it up. They're like, oh, they got their basement floor fixed, so therefore he was killed in the basement. And there was some scratches on his arm, which I believe came either from the taillight or from the glass, the broken glass under, by him, or the broken taillight. The scratches on his arm were obviously nowhere near fatal. And yeah, they're going to have Dr. Russell say that they look like dog bites or dog scratches. But to me, that right there tells you don't know what you're saying, because how could something be a bite or a scratch? They're not the same. Like literally somebody commented, those scratches are dog bites. Well, are they bites or are they scratches? Because if it was a dog bite, I would say there's a dog bite. I wouldn't say there's a scratch. The fact that you're calling it a scratch is kind of evidence that it's a scratch, because it's a scratch. It's not a bite. Anyway, regardless of whether it's a taillight scratch, a dog scratch, a raccoon scratch, scratches from some rocks on the ground or ice, that was not what killed him. So the people who think that those dog bites or scratches are evidence or proof that he was murdered in the basement, it's like you just went from A to Z and you just like, we'll just fill in the whole middle with fantasies, no facts. That's what y'all are doing. You're taking A and you're jumping to Z and you're filling in the whole middle with a whole bunch of lies and bullshit that has literally no evidence. Brian Higgins was at the police station. How could he be murdering a man and moving his body and cleaning up the evidence? Sarah Levinson and Julie Nagel were helping clean up the body? Is that what you're trying to say? Brian Albert and Nicole Albert and Jen McCabe and Matt McCabe and Julie Nagel and Sarah Levinson were cleaning up the murder because Brian was at the PD? Like, what? You guys are so delusional.
Peach.com.
Hey, sweet peaches. So I think I'm going to try to combine my thoughts about today with yesterday, like I said, so I can do, more than one day in a video. I am waiting for my son to come home, and, well, actually I'm at his school waiting for his bus from the overnight field trip that he took to come back. Should be back in about 10 minutes. So today was day 16, I think, for Karen Reed, and they talked about John's DNA on the clothes, other people's DNA, other unknown people, and the pieces of the taillight the lady looked at. And I think there were there was some pieces of plastic in the debris from the clothing, and John's DNA was on everything except the shoes. They couldn't identify because it was 13 people's DNA or more than that, and there was 2 to 5 people's DNA, including John's, on all of his clothing. And that's not weird when you talk about EMTs and doctors and all the various people in the hospital, the cops, Karen, everybody who touched him. So, of course, the defense is trying to play it big, that all those other unknown DNA, and did you test Brian Albert? Did you test Brian Higgins? Did you test, who was the other person they asked? And, the thing that I am starting to believe that there's astroturfing happening. Astroturfing being a very sophisticated, looks like grassroots, real life passion for Karen in the comments. But as I'm watching this trial, I feel that she is guiltier every day. And they showed a clip, first thing, of her talking about she got to his body and she saw a little splinter of glass in his nose, which she pulled out, and it started gushing blood. I thought immediately guilty because the defense has been trying so desperately to paint that he was beaten up. The cut on his nose was from being beaten up. Now we know it was from glass that probably came from the broken glass that he was holding. Or, well, the glass that was shattered that they found. Sergeant McGregor, I think was his name. And she had said that the glass, she said in another video clip that John took her glass, her gin, her vodka tonic from the SUV when he got out. The one that they had taken from the box, because they did that all the time, or he always did that, she said. So, but yet again, the defense is trying to make it seem like it's just so crazy to me. It's so crazy to me. And you know what? I'm happy to be the only YouTube channel that exists that's saying Karen is guilty. I believe Karen is guilty, and I truly feel at this point that, she could have gotten a plea deal. She could have truly leaned into, I didn't know, I had no idea. I really thought, she could lean in, she could have leaned into the whole well, Julie Nagel had a coat on and it was dark and snowing and I just saw a figure going in and it was right about the time when I was dropping him off and I thought that that was him and I had to go home so bad and, you know, used her influence and her privilege and her money to really lean in and maybe even get like house arrest for 5 years or something. I don't know. But I really think she's going to be found guilty because it's just so obvious to me. And I truly believe that, you know, if it really is 80% of people who think she's innocent and being framed, I don't know. Something is off the rails. Maybe it's me. Maybe it's Maybelline. Maybe it's astroturfing. I don't know. What do you think? Oh, let me get in the chair. Hello again. Now I'm home. Brought my kid home. And he ate, he showered, he dressed, he packed. And now he's on his way. Oh, fuck Trump. What an utter failure of a human. Just a little note. Let me see if I made any other notes to add. By the way, I think I've already said it. I may be the only human being other than the prosecution who thinks that Karen Read is guilty. I might be the only YouTube channel who consistently shows up to say, I think that Karen Read is guilty, and I think that the evidence proves it, and I think that the defense talking points are fantastical, delusional plot lines for a Netflix series 10, but not reality. Okay, let me see. Please hold. Actually, I just remembered I had a whole bunch of notes for day 14 as well as today. So let me go back. I'm going to read Karen Read thoughts from Wednesday, May 15th, day 14. I mentioned I don't think that the jurors would have had the energy nor desire to go home and start watching YouTube videos or articles, news reports about the trial. But there's also the fact that by law, L-A-W-R, by law, they are specifically and strictly told not to look things up. I might have said this already. So not only is it unlikely that they would want to, because of burnout, overkill, having other fucking things to do, but they're legally not allowed to do that. In fact, they will get yeeted off the jury and they could face legal consequences for disobeying court orders. Okay, I did already say that. And let's see. And then I said, you know, they're specifically told not to at the end of every day and at the start of every day. They're asked if they made sure that they were able to follow those instructions. In other words, it's a very big deal and it matters a hell of a lot. Okay, and then another complaint the chat frequently makes is that the judge is always taking breaks or sidebars. They act as if she's just sitting around twiddling her thumbs, scrolling on TikTok or eating bonbons, or she's just like, I'm chilling. She is working, you stupid fuck. She's busy working the case. Sometimes they need to take breaks because it's a sidebar and you can't hear what's being said. So the judge is doing a sidebar, not because she's, again, fucking off or doing some bullshit, but because there's things that the jury cannot hear. So instead of having the jury leave the room every fucking time, they do sidebars. It's part of the law. It's part of a trial. It's a fucking part of the court system. And the fact that people are so dumb complaining about that, like, oh, she's just taking a smoke break. I'm going to go take a sidebar. I'm going to go take another smoke break. Like, you stupid fucking I really, truly, truly believe that this is astroturfing at this point, because I just cannot fathom that this many people are that stupid. Also, sometimes the jurors need to leave early, go get their kid from somewhere. Maybe they have an appointment. There's so many reasons why the day might end early, like today. There was a half day. People are complaining, oh my God, the judge is so fucking lazy. Do you know why there's a half day? No, you don't. Did you know that she works every night, all night? She works on the weekends. When there is stuff that she has to do to decide, she has to read pages and pages and pages and pages and pages over the weekend. She's not fucking lazy. She's not taking breaks. She's not just chilling. She is busy. She's working on the case. When the jury is asked to leave and there's a break and you see the fan, again, they are dealing with things. It's like, this is why I feel like it has to be astroturfing, because how can that many real human beings actually believe that the judge is corrupt because she's handling business? It's like, I thought, okay, Peter Tragos kind of convinced me. Well, I guess she's kind of biased, at least in this one thing. But I am watching the trial. I am listening. I am seeing her rule in favor of the defense. I am also seeing her rule in favor of the prosecution sometimes. But it doesn't seem like she's, to me, I think she's doing the best she can with what she's got. Again, remember, it was only 9 days. 9 days of texting from the first day, January 12th, when Karen Reed reached out to Brian Higgins, when she got his number. And I believe it was 12 days from the first time that she texted him on the 12th, that Karen Reed, texted Brian Higgins on the 12th, January 12th of 2022 to January 29th of 2022. So, wait, how many days is that? No, 17 days. So 17 days, not even 3 weeks. And out of that 17 days, he said there was only 9 actual days where they texted because they weren't texting every single day. So there are people who legitimately believe, unless it's fucking a bot farm of so-called grassroots astroturfing people who are flooding these chats, like, you would actually believe that a man who was texted out of the blue by a woman he knew of as the long-standing live-in girlfriend of one of his friends, a cop, and he said, I just thought you were in this happy relationship. I just assumed. Like, he never even considered her. Yeah, he thought she was hot, but it was like, okay, she's hot, but she's with somebody. And it was very hard for him to believe that she was legitimately interested in him. And he even said many times throughout these texts, like, are you, like, what? What's going on, you know? And so where in there do you pull out from those text messages in that tiny little window of time that he was motivated to murder John? For what? For this woman that she was hot. She's hot and she's smart. But what's going on? This is so weird. This is sus. This seems strange. And like he said, is she trying to weaponize me because she's jealous that she saw John all over somebody? Or that's what she thought it was? Is she really at the end of her relationship? Is she, something else? And somehow people actually, they listened to him. They heard those text messages. You could read those text messages just by yourself with nobody reading them. And if you came away from that thinking that man murdered her, that man murdered John for her, you're fucking crazy. You're crazy, or you're part of a bot farm, because I just cannot believe that people genuinely believe that these people murdered John and just happened to bring him to the same exact spot where Karen left him. And the glass, like somebody said in a comment, if he really walked into the house with the glass in his hand from the bar, the moment there was a so-called altercation, the glass would have fallen out of his hand. So how the fuck would it end up back under by his body again? So his cell phone and the glass and the hat and his shoe, all over there, out there. So he went in the house, they beat him up, and then they brought him out there, and like, it's just not believable. And I get it. They're trying to say that, oh, Trooper Proctor planted the glass or the broken taillight. I don't believe that. I do not believe that. I just don't. It doesn't make sense. It's not logical. It's not believable. There's images, videos of her taillight busted. And then people are like, there's no way that her taillight would have broken on him, on his body. But he had a glass in his hand. Maybe he threw the glass at her taillight. Maybe he got out, they were arguing. He was like, oh, and that's what cracked it. And then she hit him and a little piece went in his, she literally admitted that she pulled a piece of glass off of his nose, which is proof. It didn't happen from a punch. And you know what? I want to just say, I'm really disappointed in that medical examiner, because I'm not disappointed in her for not saying, I'm not disappointed in her because she said that the method or the cause, whatever, was undetermined. Because I think the fact that it's undetermined, unlike Peter Tragos, who thinks that that's so terrible for the prosecution, I think that's kind of the point. It's undetermined. They need the jury to decide. You need to look at the facts and the evidence and decide, because it's undetermined. It's not clear. Unfortunately, it happened in such a way where his injuries were not, it's not unfortunate that his injuries weren't worse, but it's unfortunate it's unfortunate to me that the medical examiner said that a punch could break your skull open. Like, how the fuck could a human being punch another person in the back of the head? And I guess you'd have to do it. I guess you can do that if you were doing it. While it is possible for somebody to die from a punch, I do believe there would be more evidence that multiple people would have had to have been involved in a way that would not be possible to hide it. And I just truly don't believe that the people there in that house had any motive to do so, or that they did so, or that they cleaned all it up and put him on the lawn. I don't believe it. Not believable. And again, it's not just the fact of that alone, but the hypothermia, the signs of hypothermia, the pieces of debris from the taillight in his sleeve, and the piece of glass that Karen said she found in his nose might have been glass. It could have also been a sliver of the taillight. The fact that his phone never got warm. Even the body temperature was hypothermic. And then Hank Brennan made a good point, because they said the body temperature was 80, but by the time, so he had gone, they didn't take his body temperature outside. They got him into the ambulance. He was in the ambulance for a while. Then they got him into the hospital. He was in the hospital for a while. So all of that warmed him up. I think that there's no doubt that he was dead when they got there, and that he had been dead for a while, and that there was absolutely no chance for him to survive. And the Emmy did say that most likely he was, or it's, highly likely, I don't know exactly the words she used, but it's probable that he was rendered unconscious immediately. He may have even died immediately or soon after. So, from the impact, she called it blunt force injuries to the head, and said, an object, which is like an SUV, or a surface, like a frozen ground. So I personally feel that what she said does not, it's kind of like a crapshoot, The defense can use it to their favor, and the prosecution can use it to their favor as well. So she kind of left it, she was like, I'm leaving this shit neutral. Gonna have to prove it another fucking way. So But she did say that the death was caused by blunt force injuries to the head and hypothermia. So, and she also said that, yes, it could occur from a motor vehicle. So there was that. So all these people screaming up and down that it's factually proven that this couldn't happen. Well, the fucking ME said that, yes, this could have happened from a motor vehicle. So what now, bitches? I thought I was done. I had one more little bit to read. My notes from today. Karen Reed, day 16 thoughts. Oh my frickin' God. I started late watching today. It's Friday. I'm reading. It's Friday, May 16th, 2025. It's 11:38. Well, now it's 11:39 a.m. I have so much client work to do, which is why I haven't been making videos, which is why I said I would not be making videos every day, and that I would probably start combining days into, one video, because there's just so many days and I have so much other stuff to do that actually pays me. This is a good time for me to say, if you love my videos and you want to help me make more videos more regularly, then please become a member, because that really helps. You can become a member either on YouTube or on Patreon or on my website, which is catlovedreamingpage.com. Then the very first clip they played, oh my God, I just saw a clip of Karen Reed saying that she got to his body first and she saw a tiny little splinter of glass on his nose, which she pulled out, and it immediately started gushing blood. When I heard that, I was like, oh my fucking God, how can anybody still be in the chat saying she's innocent, which they are. Sick fucking people. She just admitted that there was a glass in his face. Oh my God. So those were the end of my notes. Turn this off because it's blinding me. And, when I heard her say that, just another little piece of evidence stacked on top of all the others that, to me, is proof. He died out there where she left him. She found him where she left him. And yet again, did I already say this? I think I might have said this when I was in the car waiting for my son, or maybe I said it to my son when I was waiting in the car with my older son. But anyway, I truly feel that her best bet would have been to, this is so bright. Let me see if I can get it to go down. Okay, that doesn't actually hurt. That's better. I just believe, now, like my son said, she could get off. She could be found not guilty and get nothing. But, and that could happen. But, and maybe that will happen. And then I'll be like, oh, I guess she did the right thing because she got off. But I really do feel, I think I did say this, like, maybe I'm wrong about it being a bot farm or astroturfing. All right, now I'm looking at an article from the Patriot Ledger from May 5th of 2025. Just to show it real quick, I'm going to look at this, okay? So it says fundraisers, a home sale, retirement funds, how Karen Reed paying her hefty defense bill. There's a typo in the title. That's already a negative. It says that before her second trial even began, accused murderer Karen Reed told Vanity Fair she owes her attorneys more than $5 million in deferred fees. Quote, if I can get the entire truth of this case out in the public forum, that to me is priceless. Quote, the accused murderer told Vanity Fair. I can't believe that that's how they're referring to her. Reed told Vanity Fair she's living off of what's left of her 401k retirement fund after losing her jobs as a Fidelity Investments equity analyst and Bentley University finance professor after being arrested and charged with the murder of her boyfriend, cop John O'Keefe, in Canton, Massachusetts. She told the magazine she owes the defense. She owed defense team. There's typos. I don't know. This looks like shit. All right, now I'm going to look at this New York Post article. Cameron Reed reveals she owes her lawyers $5 million, says her controversial courtroom grins are due to a free conscience. This is by Olivia Land, published October 31st of 2024. Oh, picture. Oh my God, that's really fucking sad. I don't think I've ever seen that. Maybe I have. Look at how, oh, that's just really sad. Oh no, they look so happy. What a cute, sweet man. Oh, that's so really tragic. I mean, I already knew that he was a handsome man. Oh, that's sad. That's really, really sad. Is that the grin? It says she still owes her attorneys $5 million in deferred fees ahead of her second trial, she told Vanity Fair. As for the critics who lambasted Reed and her team for being spotted at ritzy restaurants during lunch breaks, Reed simply scoffed. You try feeding Alan Jackson McDonald's. During the first trial, Reed was frequently photographed smiling in the courtroom. One headline even dubbed her, quote, America's happiest murder defendant. Quote, if I look happy, did it cross your mind that I have a free conscience because I didn't do it? She told Vanity Fair of the criticism. I don't know. If being innocent and enjoying the support and refusing to be down day after day, month after month, year after year, makes me America's happiest murder defendant, then I'm America's happiest murder defendant, she insisted. Reed has repeatedly denied the prosecution's argument that she drunkenly ran O'Keefe over with her SUV when she dropped him off at a Canton, Massachusetts house party with his cop friends, which he never fucking went into. The state claimed that Reed abandoned John O'Keefe's body where it was later found in a snowdrift, but she insisted that she had no idea how he ended up dead with black eyes, a skull fractures, and cuts all over his body. So fucking sad. What the fuck? No wonder Brian Higgins thought she was happy. She briefly addressed O'Keefe in her conversation with Vanity Fair. Quote, they want to see me incarcerated for the rest of my life, despite never seeing evidence while you were alive that I mistreated you, she said of the police officer's family. We were dating for 2 years, and I've since eclipsed those 2 years. I'm going on 3, and I've got to save myself now, she added. Reed has a recurring nightmare of O'Keefe dying on the night of January 29th, 2022. Right, because she fucking murdered him. But cannot remember what happened to him, she told the magazine. In the dream, she said, she tries to get O'Keefe to remember how he died while his mother and brother, Peg and Paul O'Keefe, pin the blame on her. Yeah, bitch, because you did it and they fucking know it. Look at how happy she fucking is. Cameron Reed depleted her legal fund during her first trial. So, Paul and Peg, if you think I killed John, that means you misjudged me for 2 years and entrusted 2 young family members in my care, she said, referring to O'Keefe's niece and nephew who lived with him. Quote, then in the blink of an eye, you now think I'm a cold-blooded killer who took your son away. Who took away your son?
Reed added that she was especially hurt by the rejection from O'Keefe's dad, who referred to her as an angel in the Christmas card just a few weeks before O'Keefe died. Yeah, well, what the fuck do you expect? Reed, who has repeatedly suggested that O'Keefe was actually killed in a fight with his cop buddies, who then supposedly framed her, told Vanity Fair that she believed heavy drinking was the root cause of her beau's demise. Yeah, bitch, you're heavy drinking. Whoops.
Please forgive my terrible accent in advance.
Quote, I feel that everything in the 2 years I dated John was a precursor to this horrible decision of us to go out drinking, and for John to think he was welcome with all these people who never really acted welcoming to him before. Everyone was a drinking buddy, and everyone testified as much. Alcohol is at the epicenter of this, and it was in my relationship with him. In hindsight, everything was just a precursor to this faithful, tragic night in his life, and to a much lesser degree mine. What? Oh my God. Oh my fucking God, bitch.
That's crazy. I just don't know how long the trail of dominoes is. Are there 10? Are there 100 more? She said of the road ahead. I don't know how long it takes to get there, but I know there's a big explosion at the end. Yeah, it's called You Going to Jail for Life. Actually, for 20.
Like I said, I could be the only human being in the world other than the prosecution who thinks that Karen Reed is actually guilty. But I do believe that, and I don't think there's any going back for me now. I don't think there's anything. Well, you know what? I'm not going to say that, because I am truly a critical thinker and I like to take it all in. So I feel like I won't change my mind, but maybe I will. Maybe they'll come out with something and I'll be like, whoa, mind blown. I didn't expect that. So I have the light off because it's late and I don't want to burn my eyeballs out. I just wanted to pop in to the very end to say, I don't
believe Karen is innocent.
I don't really think
anything other than Karen hitting him makes sense. And then she blamed his friends.
I mean, I guess some people might believe it. Like, oh, I'm smiling every day in court because I'm innocent. But why would you be smiling when your life is on the line and you could potentially go to jail for up to 20 years for killing someone? Like, where in that scenario do you find joy? The man is dead. If you truly did not kill this man, why are you joyous? Someone that you supposedly loved and cared about is dead. And you are at his murder trial. You are on trial for his murder. You're claiming you're innocent. Why would you be smiling, though? Because this is a tragedy. His family is sitting there, observing, listening. They think you did it. And you think it's appropriate to smile a lot and laugh. It's a somber, grim grave filled with grief situation. This is a very horrible, sad thing. And I'm not getting grief from her. I'm not getting a heartbroken woman who's lost the love of her life, who's now on trial for his murder. And like, where in there is the smiles? And again, not that you can never smile. It's like 8 weeks of trial and there's like many hours each day. Of course you're going to smile sometimes, okay? But I don't know. I feel that that's a bullshit excuse for being so fucking joyful when you're on trial for the murder of your ex-boyfriend who's dead. And his family is there. And it was beyond just an average tragedy, because the children that he was raising who relied on him as their dad had already been orphaned. So it's multiple layers. The mother of John had lost her daughter 9 years before, and her son-in-law 9 years before. And the brother, the people she's talking to, Peg and Paul, they already went through so much tragedy. And this is never-ending tragedy that has completely turned their lives upside down, sideways, and inside out. I just feel like her attitude is not reflecting or reflective of someone who has any comprehension of all of that. And she certainly doesn't seem sad, and she certainly doesn't seem heartbroken, and she doesn't seem to understand the gravity of this situation. And I understand that people react in different ways to different situations, and there's no one right way to do it. There's no one right way that you have to act in order for you to be innocent. But I just think that someone who had a heart, who understood the complexities and the depth and the far-reaching impact of this situation on everybody involved, would have a bit more discernment in how she's behaving, and would try, out of respect at the least, to suppress some of her fucking glee and joy, I think. But, hey, maybe I'm delusional to believe that this is astroturfing at its finest, because I just can't wrap my head around that many people sincerely, truly in their hearts believing that 60 to 70 people all know that John O'Keefe was murdered, and are willing and actually lying, putting their life on the line, able to lie, framing Karen for this man's murder. Like, why? Why again? Oh, you never talked about that. Who exactly murdered him? Oh, the straw man, the third party culprit. You got so many potential people, but you got zero evidence of that. Sounds like delusional plot lines, story, fantastical. We were in a creative writing class, and we were brain dumping every single possible ludicrous outcome, and then we just threw it all together in a fucking pot of stew. And what do they call that when you everything in the kitchen sink kind of thing, and throw spaghetti at the wall and hope and pray on a wing and a prayer and a Hail Mary that another motherfucker on this jury is going to be like, I don't know, it's reasonable doubt. I mean, the man was found in the snow on the ground right where she left him. His phone never got warm, as if it went inside. He had signs of hypothermia. He had a gash on the back of his head. There were broken pieces of taillight found all around. His shoe, his hat, the straw from the glass itself, his cell phone. The fact that she said, I was expecting to find him on the side of the road. The fact that she said, I know I said I hit him, but did I say it as many times as they said I said it? Everything that she said. And those fucking grins, and not one morsel of grief, of regret, of, I can't believe this is happening. This is a nightmare. This is the worst nightmare I've ever. This is a nightmare of epic proportions. I'm stuck in a nightmare. I lost the love of my life, and I'm being accused of murdering him. And she pulls out of that, I'm the happiest murder defendant in history. Let's see how happy you are when the verdict comes in. Again, I could end up with my jaw on the floor, like, wow, I guess the jury was as fucking stupid and crazy and delusional as the bot army or the chat, whatever you call it. We only got about 6 more weeks to go. And again, for all the people who are like, oh my God, I can't believe it's a half day. Oh my God, I can't believe there's a long lunch. Oh my God, I can't believe. The whole reason that they say the thing is going to take 8 weeks is because it's going to take fucking 8 weeks, because it's long and it's drawn out and there's breaks and there's this and there's that and there's all these things. There's rulings they have to do. There's this objection, there's that objection, there's this motion, there's that motion, and all the stuff. It takes time. Like, whoever said that court was quick? And as they've said, it shouldn't be quick. Due process takes time. It takes diligence. It takes going over everything with a fine-tooth comb, back, forth, back, forth, back, forth, and then again and again and again and again and again, until ultimately, hopefully, what comes out is the truth. If Karen Reed was so drunk that she hit John O'Keefe with her SUV in some kind of way that resulted in his death, then she should have to pay whatever consequences there are. And I genuinely believe, like I said, if she had just simply acknowledged that night, oh my God, I must have hit him accidentally. I could have sworn I thought I saw him going in the house. And I had to go, and I left, and I had no idea. But then when he didn't come home, I mean, yeah, I was leaving him 100 voice messages because I thought he went inside, and I was really jealous and mad. And obviously I thought he was alive. That's why I was calling him. Lean into that. But she didn't do that. So now her fate is in the hands. So that's the thing. If it's true what Emily D. Baker said, the first jury was 6 to 9 people were going for guilty that she hit him. And what elevates it to second degree murder is it's either she was so drunk that she was behaving in a way that she should have known was deadly, and that elevates it to second degree murder, or if they find she deleted ring camera footage, she blamed somebody else, she said all these other people did it. It's a crime to accuse other people of some shit you fucking did. So all of those exacerbating circumstances could lead her to having 20 plus years in jail. I think that her best case scenario at this point is another mistrial. And then that maybe they'll be like, fuck, we're not doing this again. Fine. I don't think that 12 people are going to find her not guilty. I just don't. Especially there's a hair in my fucking shirt. And that is the thing I hate the most. I don't think that there's any way 12 people are going to find her not guilty of all 3 counts. I can imagine some people saying that she's not guilty on some counts, but I cannot see all 12 people saying she's not guilty. I could see all 12 people saying she's guilty at the very minimum of count 2 that she hit him. But if they genuinely believe, again, maybe they'll say she hit him, but she really didn't know. She genuinely didn't know. She left all those crazy fucking voicemails because she didn't know she hit him. So insane to me. The conspiracy theory of what they think happened is so insane to me. I just can't fathom people believing it. But there's a lot of things people believe that I can't fathom. So there's that. By the way, I did record just a few clips of today, and I will include them.
Yay. All persons have any business before the Honorable Beverly Canoni, Justice of the Norfolk Superior Court, and for the country of Norfolk. Draw near, give your attendance, and you shall be heard. God save the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. This court is now open. You may be seated.
Good morning again, counsel. Good morning again, Ms. Reed. morning, James. So a couple of things. We appreciate your patience this morning. Remember I told you the other day that we're trying to cut back on sidebar conferences. So we took some time now to address issues that we would have otherwise had to do that way. So we do appreciate your patience. And also I really appreciate your patience about and understanding about yesterday. Sometimes during trials things come up that are completely unavoidable, and I tried to cancel you as soon as we could so you wouldn't even have to come to court. So I appreciate that. I do have to ask you those questions. Were you all able to follow my instructions and refrain from discussing this case with anyone since we were last here? Yes. Everyone said yes or nodded affirmatively. Were you also able to follow the instructions and refrain from doing any independent research or investigation on this case? Yes. Everyone said yes or nodded affirmatively. Did anyone happen to see, hear, or read anything about this case since we left here the other day? Everyone said no or shook their head. All right, can we have our next witness, please?
May I?
Yes.
The Commonwealth seeks to introduce two clips.
Okay.
First clip the Commonwealth would seek to introduce and show the jury is clip 20.
There's innuendo here that you guys have really been going at it. And this was sort of had like a last date element to it. Was that going on?
That was not going on. John made it clear to me, I'm never breaking up with you. You know, not never that we're in this good or bad, but you're the best person I've ever.
The Commonwealth would ask to show clip 19.
Okay.
I don't think, I don't see how John would have known about my text with Brian. And I'm not sure if he knew he would have reacted very strongly. I think we would have broken up, but I don't think John would have lost it and caused a fight. I didn't feel like John's emotions with me got really strong.
Thank you.
Sure. All right, Ms. McLaughlin, who is your next witness?
Your Honor, our next witness is a juvenile by the name of Ms. Kaylee Furbush.
Okay.
My last name is spelled C-L.
All right, Mr. Lally, whenever you're ready.
Thank you, Your Honor. Morning, sir.
Good morning, sir.
Could you please introduce yourself to the jury and spell your last name for the court?
My name is Zachary Clark. My last name is spelled C-L-A-R-K.
And what do you do for work, sir?
I'm a sergeant with the state police, sir.
And how long in total have you worked for the Mass State Police?
Approximately 7 years.
And in what capacity do you currently work?
I currently work for the Norfolk District Attorney's Office.
In the detective unit, is that correct?
That's correct.
And how long or when did you begin working with the Norfolk County SPDU?
February of 2023.
And you're a sergeant currently within police, is that correct?
That's correct.
And when you initially joined the Massachusetts State Police, did you undergo any training?
Yes, I did.
And can you please describe...
Sir, the evidence the court and jury in the case down here and the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
Yes.
Good morning.
Good morning.
All right, go right ahead, Mr. Lally.
Thank you, Your Honor. Good morning, sir.
Good morning. Good morning.
All right, go right ahead, Mr. Lally.
Thank you, Your Honor. Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
Could you please state your name and spell your last name for the jury?
My name is Evan Brent, B-R-E-N-T.
And what do you do for work, sir?
I work for the Massachusetts State Police
And how long have you been a trooper with the Massachusetts State Police?
for just under 8 years.
And in what capacity do you currently work with the State Police?
Currently, I am a sergeant and I'm assigned.
Now, going back to when you initially joined the State Police, did you undergo any training?
Yes, I did.
And could you please describe for the jury generally?
Of Detective Kevin Albert of the Canton Police Department.
No.
Were you ever asked to do any buccal swabs of Lieutenant Brian Tully of the Massachusetts State Police?
No.
Thank you. I have nothing further.
Anything, Mr. Lally?
No, Your Honor.
All right, thank you very much, Sergeant. You're all set.
Thank you.
Next witness for the Commonwealth?
Commonwealth calls Maureen Hartnett.
Follow me, ma'am.
You solemnly swear the evidence you give the court and jury in the case now hearing the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes, I do.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
You consider stand wherever you're comfortable. Just please keep your voice up, okay?
Yes.
Whenever you're ready, Mr. Brennan.
Thank you, Your Honor. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Could you please introduce yourself to the jury and offer the spelling of your last name?
My name is Maureen Hartnett, Hartnett.
Could you tell us where you presently work?
I work at the Massachusetts State Police Crime Laboratory.
Before you began working at the Massachusetts State Police Crime Laboratory,
The debris, make any observations of anything contained in those scrapings. So there was nothing of note that I could have put in my notes to further classify them.
when you do the scraping, is there a table or a desk that you would see small pieces or difficult pieces? How do you contain what you're scraping from an item?
I lay out a piece of glassine paper, which is approximately 6 inches by 6 inches, and I scrape the debris into that glassine, and then I fold it up and put it in an additional envelope to prevent anything from falling out.
So if there's any debris, you would fold it in the glassine and then put that in a separate envelope?
Yes, that's correct.
And did you continue to study and scrape the other pieces of clothing?
Yes, I performed that same type of scraping on the orange T-shirt. That scraping was combined with the scrapings from the sweatshirt. I performed the same scraping on the jeans as well as the boxer shorts.
In that scraping process, did you acquire debris?
Yes, there was some visible debris.
How small were the pieces?
I did not make any measurements of it.
Why not?
That's done by a different analysis unit, so I didn't do any type of analysis on that debris.
How small or large were the pieces of debris that you scraped from the clothing?
I did not take any measurements of them.
How did you store the debris that you scraped from the clothing?
It was put into a glassine fold, given a separate item number, and then put into a larger glassine fold so that it could be tracked throughout the laboratory.
Do you have that item number?
Yes, I do. So the debris from the sweatshirt and T-shirt was item 7-18.18.
I'm going to ask you one more time for that number.
7-18.18.
And that's the debris that you scraped from the shirt and the sweatshirt.
Correct.
Did you do any debris scrapings from the pants?
Yes, I did.
Was any debris produced from the pants?
Yes.
Was it similarly packaged?
Yes, that's correct.
Was there a different item number given for the pants?
Yes.
And what was that item number?
May I check my notes?
Yes.
Thank you. That item number, the debris from the jeans, was 7-1.8.
Those two items, the debris that you acquired from those clothing items, did you send them anywhere?
I put those in our secured storage unit, and they were later forwarded on to the trace unit for analysis.
They later went to the trace unit?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. When you arrived at Canton on February 1st, 2022, do you recall what the weather was like outside?
I don't recall. I just know that it was winter.
You said when you first get to a scene, you have a conversation about the investigators' information to help your assessment. And I don't want you to discuss what that conversation may have been, but did you have a similar conversation?
Yes, I did.
When you're looking at an item that's been stored, like in this case, a car, does the weather conditions, ice, cold, snow, ever preserve or maintain evidence on an item longer than it otherwise would stay?
I'm sorry, can you ask that one more time, please?
Does ice or snow or the weather ever maintain evidence longer than otherwise would stay? For example,
I don't have any data or information to that.
have you ever had an opportunity to view videos of the Lexus when it was first stored and the condition of snow and ice on it and the thawing process of that?
I don't believe that's the part of the video I saw, no.
You saw a video after the snow had already melted?
I don't know if the snow had melted. When I saw the vehicle, it did not have snow on it.
Okay. Thank you. I have no further questions.
Okay.
Your Honor, may I approach the
Yes.
witness? Thank you. Your Honor, pursuant
Show
to
Mr. Brennan what you did. Okay.
pursuant to a stipulation with the Commonwealth, we've stipulated into evidence various documents. So what I'd like, with Your Honor's permission, and for the clerk,
Great.
have them marked as next in order, and then I'll proceed from there.
Thank you. Should any be marked A, B, and C, or are they each separate?
Separate, please, Your Honor.
Okay.
The Commonwealth and the defense,
Okay.
and the stipulation by offering a stipulation that's agreed to between the parties.
Okay. Can we turn the AC down, please? Thank you. Yes.
Your Honor, if I may, I'd like to read a stipulation agreement between the Commonwealth and the defense.
Okay.
And the stipulation between the parties is as follows. Now comes the Commonwealth and Karen Reed, the defendant, in the above captioned matter. Both parties respectfully stipulate to the following. The two Massachusetts State Police troopers present at the autopsy conducted by the medical examiner, Dr. Scortibello, on January 31st, 2022, were Trooper Keefe and Trooper Watson. Former Trooper Michael Proctor was not present.
Thank you.
And
Yes, thank you.
with that, Your Honor, I'd like to introduce and play clip number 21.
Okay. Paul, turn the AC off. Hold on 1 second, please. I just want that. Can the jurors hear better with that on?
So John's laying there, his left and his right, and I approach John from the left. That's where the street is. And he had a piece of glass, like, perched on his nose, like, just wedged like a splinter would be. And I just pulled it, and as soon as I pulled it, it just gushed blood down his face.
So we need this mark.
Were associated with various stains. Items beginning with 7-18 were associated with various stains taken from various areas on the gray long sleeve shirt of Mr. O'Keefe, correct?
Correct.
And with respect to each of those areas of the orange t-shirt and the gray long sleeve shirt, were you able to generate a DNA profile from those items?
I was.
And from your comparative analysis of each of the DNA profiles from those items to the known standard of John O'Keefe, what did you conclude?
So the male DNA profile was interpreted as it originated from a single contributor. The DNA profile from these items is at least 490 octillion times more likely if it originated from John O'Keefe than if it originated from an unknown, unrelated individual. This provides support for an inclusion.
Now again, if you could just remind the jury, when you say single source contributor, what does that mean?
Yeah, so a single source profile is a profile that has one contributor to it. So like one person contributed DNA to that profile.
And with respect to the number as far as 490 octillion times more likely, how many zeros are in that number?
So an octillion is a 1 followed by 27 zeros.
Now lastly, sir, did you perform any analysis with reference to items numbered 8-2 and 8-3?
I did.
And what were the descriptions respectively for items 8-2 and 8-3?
So item 8-2 was right hand fingernail clippings from John O'Keefe, and item 8-3 were left hand fingernail clippings from John O'Keefe.
So fingernail clippings from both the right and left hand of Mr. O'Keefe.
Correct.
And were you able to generate a DNA profile from those item numbers, the right and left hand fingernail clippings of Mr. O'Keefe?
I was.
And based on, from your comparative analysis of the DNA profile from the right and left hand fingernail clippings, both of Mr. O'Keefe, taken in conjunction with the known standard of John O'Keefe, what did you conclude?
Yeah, so the male DNA profile was interpreted as originated from a single contributor, and the DNA profile from these items is at least 490 octillion times more likely if it originated from John O'Keefe than if it originated from an unknown, unrelated individual. This provides support for an inclusion.
So with respect to each the right and left hand fingernail clippings of Mr. O'Keefe, both of those were identified by you or your analysis as a single source contributor, correct?
Correct.
And they were each 490 octillion times more likely to have originated from John O'Keefe than from an unknown, unrelated individual. Is that correct?
Correct.
Thank you. Thank you, sir. I have nothing further on.
May I, Your Honor?
Yes.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
Mr. Porto, I would like to start by asking you about item 3-1.1, which you've identified as a sample from the passenger side taillight of the vehicle. Can you orient yourself in your report to that item?
Yes.
And that, of course, was the passenger side taillight that was attached to the vehicle, correct?
Correct.
You were never asked to do any DNA comparison on any pieces of taillight connected with this case, correct?
Let me check my other report. For taillight, there was another item that was item 3-3.1, which is sample from apparent glass on rear bumper, if that's what you're referencing.
Okay, so if I suggested to you that the taillight was plastic, that glass wouldn't have been the taillight, correct?
I don't have, that's beyond my scope of testing.
Gotcha. Okay. With regard to the passenger side taillight, you found that there were 3 contributors of DNA to that taillight attached to the vehicle, correct?
Correct.
One of those contributors appeared to be John O'Keefe. Is that fair to say?
He was included into the profile.
With regard to the other 2 contributors, who were they?
They could be anybody.
Were you ever asked to compare DNA samples from either Canton Police Detective Kevin Albert or Canton Police Chief Kenneth Berkowitz to the DNA profile that you analyzed from that passenger side taillight?
I was not.
Now, with regard to the broken drinking glass, which is item 3-2.1.1, do you see that in your report?
I do.
With regard to that, you came up with a DNA profile that also had 3 contributors, correct?
Correct.
One of those contributors appeared to be John O'Keefe, correct?
He was included, correct.
Who were the other 2 contributors?
I don't know. They could be anybody.
Were you ever asked with regard to that broken drinking glass to compare the DNA profile that you analyzed with the DNA of either Boston Police Sergeant Brian Albert or ATF agent Brian Higgins?
I was not.
Now, with regard to 7.1.2.1, or maybe it's 7-1.2.1, that's the stain A from the upper right leg of the jeans?
Correct.
All right. And you were aware, you were told that those were the jeans that John O'Keefe was wearing on the morning in question when he was found?
Based on the sample description, that's what it seems.
All right. And it turned out that his DNA was on his own jeans, correct?
He was included in the profile.
And that was unsurprising to you, correct? And with regard to that item, you found that there were 3 contributors of DNA, correct?
Correct.
With John O'Keefe being one of them.
He was included in the profile, yes.
And who were the other 2?
I don't know. They could be anybody.
Let's move on to stain B. Also from the upper
O'Keefe
right.
was found to, his known DNA profile was found to be an inclusion for the.
That depends. It can.
Mr. Porto, based on your training and experience and years of doing DNA testing at the lab, when it comes to samples from items of clothing, is it uncommon or common to have multiple contributors?
That depends. It can happen, but it's possible, yes.
Is it something that's a complete anomaly?
I wouldn't say so, no.
Now,
that depends. It can happen, but it's possible, yes.
Is it something that's a complete anomaly?
I wouldn't say so, no.
Now, turning your attention back to item 3-1.1, that's the sample from the passenger side tail light of the defendant's vehicle, correct?
Correct.
And Mr. O'Keefe was found to, his known DNA profile was found to be an inclusion for the DNA profile from the swab from the defendant's passenger side tail light, correct?
He was included in the profile, yes.
And to what statistical, what is the number associated with that inclusion, sir?
The DNA profile from this item is 510 non-alien times more likely to have it originated from John O'Keefe and 2 unknown individuals than if it originated from 3 unknown unrelated individuals.
Now, Mr. Porter, if I could turn you back to number 10 in your report, there's a number of different items listed there, correct?
Correct.
And as far as the items listed associated with various stains on various areas of Mr. O'Keefe's orange T-shirt and gray long-sleeve shirt, there's about 13 different DNA profiles that you generated in reference to those items, correct?
Correct.
And from those 13 different items, they're all from a single contributor, is that correct?
Correct. They were interpreted as originated from a single contributor.
And as far as the DNA profile, your comparison of each of those 13 different stains on the orange T-shirt and the gray long-sleeve shirt, what were your conclusions again as your comparison with the known standard of John O'Keefe?
Yeah, so the profile was interpreted as originated from a single contributor, and the DNA profile from these items is at least 490 octillion times more likely if it originated from John O'Keefe than if it originated from an unknown, unrelated individual. This provides support for an inclusion.
And lastly, with reference to the fingernail clippings from both the right hand and the left hand of Mr. O'Keefe, those were also, your analysis provided for inclusion of Mr. O'Keefe's known DNA standard, correct?
He was included in the profile, correct.
And again, the profile from both the right hand and the left hand fingernail clippings was a single source contributor, correct?
Objection.
Sustained.
How many sources were associated with those?
Objection.
Sustained.
Nothing further.
Okay, you all set, Mr. Unetti?
Yes, Your Honor, thank you.
You are all set, Mr. Porto. Thank you very much. Who is the next witness?
Your Honor, the Commonwealth will call Ashley Valier to stand.
Okay. Jim.
You solemnly swear the evidence you give the court and jury in the case now and here is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
I do. One.
The whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
I do. One.
All right, Mr. Lally, whenever you're ready.
Thank you, Your Honor. Good morning, Ms. Valier.
Good morning.
Could you please introduce yourself to the jury, spelling your last name for the court?
My name is Ash Valier, spelled Vallier.
And where do you work?
I work at the Massachusetts State Police Crime Laboratory.
And where did you go to school?
I got my bachelor degree in biochemistry and cell biology from UC San Diego, and a master degree
Testing.
every year.
And what areas do you specifically undergo proficiency testing in?
I've done proficiency tests in gunshot primer residue and physical match analysis.
And have you successfully lab responsibilities were as
Cover that, and then you would look at the known item, which is an item with a known source, like specifically like this window or like this vehicle.
analysis? What instruments do you utilize in the course of that analysis?
Generally, I'll use a stereo zoom microscope. Depending on the size of the items compared, I can use other microscopes as well.
Now, what is a stereo zoom microscope?
A stereo zoom microscope is a microscope that's mounted on a
Do you recognize those?
I do.
What do you recognize those?
Photos I took of item 7-12.
And again, photograph of the back, photograph of the items outside of the back.
Yes.
If you could, please tell the jury what's the description of item 7-12.
Trace item, 14 glass and clear plastic, recovered from 34 Fairview Road.
Now, the Commonwealth seek to introduce in minutes the next exhibit.
Exhibit 177A and 177B.
Your Honor, may I publish?
Yes.
Ms. Gilman, if I could have photograph 2015 and 2018. And again, Ms. Gilman, if you could just zoom in a little on the items. Thank you. And Ms. Valier, again, can you describe what's depicted up on the screen?
A photo I took of item 7-12.
The bag and one of the
Yeah, I did, right.
and your Honor,
Twenty-ninth, 2022.
Were you aware that the clothing that you received was seized from the Good Samaritan Hospital that very day?
No.
What date was the clothing brought to your lab?
I'm just fast forwarding through a lot of this because I just wanted to hear some clips and some points, but there's no way I could record everything. And outside the presence of the jury, defense attorney Alessi and the prosecution attorney Hank Brennan argued about supposedly the change of the time and whether or not it was a change or the range was always there.
Yes, four of the pieces fit together within item 3-1.
And which 4 of the pieces? Pieces of plastic recovered from 34 analysis just contained within the pieces of that single item 7-16.
So that item had 7 pieces.
Again, if you could just zoom in a little. And make clear, what are we looking at in this photograph?
So on the right side was that piece that was just shown, and on the left side is item 3-1.
And lastly, Ms. Gilman, if we could have 2151. Again, if you could zoom in on that item just a little. And Ms. Valir, what are we looking at in this photograph?
So that's that right piece on top of the taillight from the previous photo.
And is this the mechanical fit that you were testifying about earlier with reference to item 3-1, the taillight housing, and all of the various pieces that were found in 34 Fairview, starting with the number 7?
Yes.
Thank you. Ms. Gilman, you can take that down. Ms. Valir, lastly, in reference, did you also receive some debris from John O'Keefe's clothing?
Yes.
And Mr. Officer, we can have the lights back on. Thank you very much. And what did you find contained within that debris from John O'Keefe's clothing?
So there's 5 different items. So there's debris collected labeled as coming from the clothing. There was mostly debris, some apparent fibers.
Were there any pieces of apparent plastic contained within the debris?
Yes.
Was there dirt contained within the debris?
Yes.
And that debris was labeled as an item 17-18.18, is that correct?
I believe so.
And what is it that you did with the debris from the gray long sleeve shirt and the orange t-shirt?
So those are all packaged in like glassine folds, and I looked through it and documented it.
When you say you documented it, did you look at it under a microscope?
Yes.
So you did an examination under a microscope, is that correct?
Yes.
And did you measure some of those items contained within the debris?
Yes.
Specifically, did you measure items of apparent clear plastic contained within the debris?
Yes.
And what did you measure those items to be?
The piece of clear apparent plastic was approximately 1/8 inch by 1/16 inch.
And once you had conducted your preliminary analysis of those items, where did those items go?
I did no further examination on this myself. Christina Hanley might have examined some of these further.
Thank you. I have nothing further.
Okay, Mr. Nettie?
Thank you very much.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
I'd like to first talk fairly briefly about your reconstruction of the taillight to which you've testified. At the outset, by the way, that was item 7-3.1, am I correct?
Sorry, for which one?
That's the taillight, this 7-3.1, am I correct?
3-1, I believe.
7-3-1?
The taillight is item 3-1.
Oh, 3-1. I'm so sorry. Okay. With regard to that particular item, your lab has different departments, correct? Criminalists who do different things, correct? Once you reconstructed the taillight, you'll agree with me that it was missing a piece, correct, or pieces?
There was an empty spot on the overall reconstruction, yes.
Were you ever provided with, you'll agree with me that it was missing a piece, correct, or pieces?
There was an empty spot on the overall reconstruction, yes.
Were you ever provided with any pieces of taillight that would have filled in that missing spot?
No.
Were you ever provided or told about any pieces recovered from One Meadows Ave in Canton?
No.
Were you ever told about a collision at One Meadows Ave in Canton?
Sustained.
In any case, you'll agree with me there was no glass in that taillight at all, correct?
Within the taillight, I classified them as apparent plastic pieces.
There's no glass as part of the taillight, correct?
I mean, it depends on what you call, like, the bulbs usually have glass as far as I'm aware.
Those are very, very thin glass, though, correct, those bulbs?
Yes.
All right. Now, your lab received clothing in connection with this case. You've testified to that, correct?
I received the debris labeled as coming from the clothing. I never saw the clothing at all.
Right, but you're aware that your lab received clothing before the debris got to you, correct?
Yes.
And your understanding was that that was John O'Keefe's clothing in which he was found on January 29th of 2022, correct?
It's labeled as coming from him. I'm not sure of the date that it was found.
Okay. You understand the procedure that goes on at your lab when it receives evidence?
Yes.
And you know that once clothing is brought to your lab, it's given evidence numbers, correct?
Yes.
And then one of your colleagues at the lab handled the clothing and or examined it, correct, before it came to you?
Yes.
And your understanding is that one of your colleagues retrieved debris from those items of clothing and then packaged it in a fold before it got to you, correct?
Yes.
You then open up the fold and you look at the debris, correct?
Yes.
You never saw that debris inside the clothing, correct?
Correct.
And the pieces of clothing that come in are given evidence numbers when your lab receives them, correct?
Yes.
For instance, the orange T-shirt was given or was named item number 7-17?
Yes.
And the gray long sleeve shirt was item 7-18, correct?
Yes.
And your lab is accredited, correct?
Yes.
There's a complete chain of custody from the moment the clothing was brought to the lab to when the debris was removed.
Track where a piece of evidence is. The evidence team also does inventories and audits to make sure that things are where they're supposed to be.
And you have confidence in your lab's chain of custody policies and procedures, correct?
Yes. Yes.
But you'll agree that your lab cannot control who handled the clothing before it arrived at your lab, correct?
Yes.
There are times in which crime scene technicians or criminalists from your lab actually participate in the search for evidence at a crime scene, do they not?
Some of the people at the lab are crime scene responders, yes.
There are times when they actually take custody of evidence. Again, I'm talking about people from your lab, professionals. They take custody right from the crime scene and transport that evidence to your lab, correct?
Yes.
In those circumstances, your lab would have a complete chain of custody from discovery to seizure to testing or whatever, 29th of 2022?
Yes.
And of course, you can't speak to the chain of custody from January 29th to March 14th of 2022, correct?
Correct.
And you have no information and do not know why Michael Proctor waited 6 weeks to bring this clothing to your lab, do you?
Sustained.
Do you know where Michael Proctor stored this clothing during that 6-week period?
No.
Do you know how often he was alone with access to the clothing during that 6-week period?
Sustained.
Do you know if he had access to pieces of red or clear taillight during that 6-week period?
Sustained. Move on, Mr. Henry.
You were not present when the clothing was seized, correct?
Correct.
You do not have custody of this clothing from January 29th of 2022 to March 14th of 2022, correct?
Correct.
You do not know what was done with the clothing before it arrived at your lab, correct?
You covered this, Mr. Henry. Move on, please.
One last question. You cannot vouch for how the clothing or taillight pieces were handled before they got to your lab, correct?
I cannot.
Anything further, Mr. Riley, or you all set? I'm not curving it.
No. Mr. Blair, there is a separate evidence unit contained within the Massachusetts State Police Crime Laboratory, correct?
Correct.
And it's fair to say you have absolutely nothing to do with that, correct?
I'm not a part of that unit.
And so your responsibility as far as chain of custody is concerned is from when you retrieve the item during your analysis and then when you return the item to the evidence unit, correct?
Correct.
And from that analysis that you performed, you found that there were 10 different items, starting with the number 7, that were mechanical fit to 3-1, the taillight housing from the defendant's vehicle, correct?
If it's 10 items, I can count them.
Okay. As far as all those items beginning with 7 that you went through or elucidated on your direct examination, each of those were mechanical fit to each other and then to the taillight housing in 3-1.
The pieces that were previously stated, yes.
Nothing further.
All right, so we should be all set. All right, so jurors, that is it for today. I'm told when I spoke with counsel earlier that we are still on track. I have to tell you those same cautions. Please do not discuss this case with anyone. Don't do any independent research or investigation into this case. If you happen to see, hear, or read anything about this case, please disregard it and let us know. Be extra careful with your social media use. And also, I just want to remind you, next week, Thursday is a half day and Friday is a day off. All right, so we'll see you on Monday.
You guys with the jury.
So before we recess, I appreciate that counsel provided me with the information. Mr. Leslie, I got the 2 reports that you had that were incorporated in what the Commonwealth had given me a few minutes before, but I appreciate that it was pointed out here. We've had full argument on this yesterday and today. My findings for the record are that the defendant has not persuaded me of undue surprise or unfair prejudice by this information, and I don't find that there's delayed disclosure. Of course, all of this is ample game for cross-examination, certainly as to what Mr. Burgess knew, what he looked at, why he looked at it, when he looked at it, why he changed his report, and violation of the sequestration order is all for cross-examination, and I will give you a lot of leeway with that, Mr. Leslie, but I'm not having a voir dire on that. Mr. Leslie, I can tell you, obviously, you've got a great facility for cross-examining on the underlying information here. You've done fulsome cross-examinations. I have every confidence you can do it here again, but if after the direct you demonstrate that you need further time, I'll certainly hear you on that. And more importantly, perhaps, if you feel that the testimony of Jen McCabe and the others that you've mentioned is critical and that you need to recall them, I'll hear you on that as well. So regarding Dr. Welcher, as my understanding, the request yesterday was for, and it's been a request, I think, a few days. We've addressed it at sidebar, and I found that it wasn't the right time. Let's see how much Dr. Welcher could go through. I understand Dr. Welcher will testify in the Commonwealth's case in chief next week or so, Mr. Brennan?
Hopefully next week, if not
all right.
the day after the holiday.
And that will be for all of the material that was provided to the defendant initially, right, by the Commonwealth's discovery deadline?
Correct.
And what you're asking for is that after ARCA testifies the new information, you're asking for rebuttal, right?
Yes, limited to the new information.
All right, so I would allow under these circumstances a limited rebuttal, and we can define the scope after we hear the testimony of ARCA. So those are my rulings. Your objections are noted. I'll see everybody on Monday.
All right, so please.